morning, California, and good afternoon, D.C. Once again, welcome to the Non-Land Grant Agriculture and Renewable Resource Universities webinar hosted by the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture on Competitive Grants Program. My name is Mallory Canings, and I will be your host and timekeeper. We have great content prepared for you, and we will pay strict attention to the clock to make sure that we cover all aspects of NIFA's Competitive Grants Program. We will begin our discussion of competitive grants with a 5-minute introduction on the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, or what we like to call AFRI. AFRI is our premier competitive grants program. In real estate, you've heard that the mantra is location, location, location. In competitive grants, our mantra is read the RFA, and once you're done, read the RFA again. What you're looking at now on your screen is a bird's eye view of the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative. You will see two halves. On the left-hand side are our challenge areas. These are programs that NIFA has selected. They include global food security, water for agriculture, childhood obesity prevention, food safety, sustainable bioenergy, and climate change. On the right half of your screen, you will see the AFRI foundational areas. These areas come from the 2008 Farm Bill priorities, and they were updated with the release of the 2016 Farm Bill. As you can see, these priorities include plant health, animal health, food safety, nutrition and health, bioenergy, agricultural systems and technology, as well as agricultural economics. Every RFA for an AFRI program will specify which project type and which grant type it is accepting proposals for. What you are looking at right now is how a proposal you would submit would be made up of project type options on the left and grant type options on the right. I'm going to begin with the project type option. A program area may allow you to apply with a research project, an education project, an extension project, or an integrated project. In this image, you'll see that the integrated project is a different color. That is to highlight the fact that integrated projects, their definitions will vary depending on the program that you are applying to. You may be applying to a program where an integrated project could involve 2 out of the 3 components of agriculture. For example, a research and extension project would be an acceptable integrated project. However, you may be applying to the Childhood Obesity Prevention Challenge area, in which case the only accepted integrated projects are what we call fully integrated. That means that they must involve all 3 sections of agriculture: research, education, and extension. So once again, I'm going to encourage you to pay close attention to the RFA if you are applying for an integrated project. Moving to the right half of this slide, grant types are pictured. The most common grant is the standard grant, and it's what most people think. You propose to complete your project. A CAP grant is our nickname for coordinated agricultural projects. These are multi-center projects of a very large scope that normally have at least a dozen project directors involved. These funding opportunities come around less often than standard grant opportunities. Conference grants are just like they sound. There are funds that will support project directors in putting on a conference and bringing people together to discuss science in the areas of research, education, and extension. And then at the bottom here, we have what we call FAZE grants. FAZE stands for Food and Agricultural Science Enhancement Grants. There are some categories of grants that are only available to those institutions who qualify for FAZE funds. Two of those are equipment grants and sabbatical grants. This slide right here shows what the requirements are to qualify for the Food and Agricultural Science Enhancement Grant, or what you may have heard referred to as strengthening grants. An institution may have less than 17,500 total students enrolled. It may be a minority serving institution. It may be one that is not in the top 100 at receiving research dollars. Or it could be what we call an EPSCoR state, and that is an AFRI-specific experimental program to stimulate competitive research. Now, being determined to be an EPSCoR state means that your state, for example, the state of California, if it were to qualify, would have to be below the 38th percentile at receiving funds from all of the Agriculture, Food, and Research Initiative programs. I have provided for you on slide 9 all of the direct links to these qualifications for FAZE funding. And I would also just like to note that NIFA includes our opportunities for undergraduate, graduate, and postdoctoral fellowships within the enhancement or strengthening award category, as well as new investigator support. Those are also parts of the AFRI program, and once again, it'll be specified in the RFA if the program you're interested in applying to will accept those types of grant applications. And with that, I'm just going to let you know that if you have any specific questions about AFRI, that you should contact Dr. Mark Miranda. And I will now turn it over to Scott Dockham, who will discuss the Small Business Innovation Research Program.
Thank you, Mallory. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for attending the webinar today. As soon as the slides get up, we'll get started here. Are they up yet, Mallory? I don't see them on my end. There we go. Okay. While she's getting the slideshow up and running here, the USDA SBIR program, or Small Business Innovation Research Program, is a program that's managed by NIFA, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And my name is Scott Dockham. I'm the program coordinator for the program. And today I'm going to go through a little bit about how this program works. If you're not a small company on the webinar, that's fine. This program can benefit universities as well as far as collaboration and working with small companies to move technologies into the marketplace. Next slide, please. Next slide, Mallory. There it is. Okay. So the history of the Small Business Innovation Research Program, basically this was created back in 1982 by a gentleman by the name of Roland Tibbetts, who worked with the National Science Foundation. And it was signed in as a federal-wide program by Ronald Reagan. The SBIR program has awarded over $40 billion of research funding to American small businesses. And over 450,000 engineers and scientists have been involved, resulting in one of the largest STEM talent concentrations in the world. In the SBIR program, there's 11 federal agencies that participate. And so what I'm doing now is talking a little bit about what SBIR is, and then I'll go into the USDA program here in a couple slides. So next slide, please. So what is SBIR? The basic needs of this is to meet federal research and development needs. So each agency has specific things they're looking for as far as technologies and trying to move them out potentially for their own use or move them out into the marketplace. The other aspect of SBIR is to increase private sector commercialization of these innovations and make sure that they are used and not just sitting stagnant based on who developed the technology. Obviously, it's to stimulate technological innovation, and it's to foster and encourage participation of innovation in entrepreneurship by socially and economically disadvantaged persons. So these are small businesses usually owned and operated by those type of groups. Next slide. So under the SBIR program, there's two programs within. So you have an SBIR and you have STTR programs. SBIR is basically a program where 2.9%, this is based on FY15 funding, but 2.9% of any extramural research dollars that Congress appropriates to a federal agency has to be set aside for an SBIR program. For this year, for 2016, that's 3% is what's being set aside. And their other program that's there is called the Small Business Technology Transfer Program. Now, USDA doesn't have that. I'll show that in a minute. But this is if Congress allocates over $1 billion per year for extramural R&D to an agency. They must also have the STTR program. So most of the agencies, 11 agencies, they all have an SBIR program. Some only have the STTR program. And the way the programs are operated is SBIR is really driven based on milestones. So you have a phase one part of the project. It's the feasibility study. This is where a company develops an idea for a technology, but they need that early stage seed funding to try to get the technology figured out and see if it's even something they can do. They can apply for a grant for phase one to develop the feasibility or the prototype, up to $150,000 for 6 months. After they've demonstrated feasibility, the company will then apply for phase two funding. And this is where they actually conduct the full research and development effort to scale up the technology and get it ready for the marketplace. Under the program, the Federal RIDE program, they can receive up to $1 million, and those grants are typically for 24 months. There's also phase three, and the federal agencies don't participate in this process, but the commercialization effort under phase three is where the company works to secure private investment from non-governmental funding, and or they can also, if they're working with an agency that does contracting, they can sole source the technology back to that agency under a contract and receive funding that way. Next slide, please. So this is a listing of all the 11 agencies that participate in the program. And in FY15, I think the takeaway message here is there's about $2.5 billion that was available for SBIR funding from across all of the 11 federal agencies. This slide also shows the different budgets that agencies have. So at the top, you'll see that agencies with SBIR and STTR programs, you'll see their budgets are quite huge because they receive quite a bit of money from Congress to run those programs. Down at the bottom, you'll see just those that have SBIR, USDA being one of those, and you'll see what their annual budgets are for FY15. And those budgets, they fluctuate from year to year depending on allocations received from Congress. Okay, so next slide, please. What I'm going to do now is start to talk a little bit about the USDA program specifically. What we do here at USDA is we only award grants, and the reason why we do that is we want to keep our program fairly broad. We want the ideas to be initiated by the investigators. These are the folks who have their boots on the ground. They know what the problems are within agriculture, And so they're able to provide us with their best ideas for technology innovation. What we also do is we award these projects based on the scientific and technical merit. We also look at the PI and the company qualifications and what is the commercial potential? Is this a technology that actually can make it into the marketplace? Now, I showed earlier that phase one grants typically are 6 months and up to $150,000. That's a basis for most agencies. Our program operates at 8 months, and we've got specific ability to do that because agriculture technologies take a little bit longer to develop under feasibility, but we also offer it at $100,000 for that phase one grant. Phase two grants are 2 years, and they're up to $600,000 for those. And an applicant must receive a phase one grant before you can apply for phase two. So that's the milestone process of this program. Next slide, please. So history of our funding. Just to give you a brief overview, in 2015 we were at $20 million. It's been kind of steady there for a few years. But for phase one, you can kind of see these are the number of proposals received versus funded. So we had 414 proposals received in FY15 for phase one, and we funded 85. That's roughly about a 20% success rate. And for phase two, we had 51 proposals submitted, and we funded 28, which is roughly 50% success rate. Next slide, please. So it's a very highly competitive program that we have. What I'm going to do now is go through our general topic, our 10 topic areas that we have. I won't go through these in great detail, but it'll give you a nice flare of what we're asking companies to submit to our program. So we have our forest and related resources topic area, and this is really looking at technologies that help the diversity, the health, and productivity of our nation's forests and grasslands. We have our plant production and protection biology topic area, and this one really focuses on plant breeding methods, developing new food and non-food plant crops. We have our animal production and protection topic area, and this one is really focused on our veterinary sciences. So we see a lot of ways of helping keep animals, typical agricultural animals, healthy and thriving, and also for producing them as well. Our air, water, and soils topic area is exactly that. We're looking at developing technologies to help protect those three items and ensure that optimal farm operations can be maintained and still protect each of those air, water, and soils. Food science and nutrition. This is one of our bigger topic areas. There's a lot of proposals here, and it's basically dealing with new improved processes and technologies for emerging food safety, food processing type of things. We also see a lot of nutrition type of proposals come through here. So that's education in nutrition, such as childhood diabetes, dealing with those kind of things. So we see a lot of proposals there. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide here, there's two topic areas that are listed in blue. I'm going to cover them last. So I'll start with aquaculture. Aquaculture is really fish farming, and this is dealing with technologies that help sustain the fish populations of fish that you'll see at the supermarket, and also ways to actually produce them and get them to the market so the consumer can enjoy them. We have our biofuels and bio-based products, and the top, we see a lot of proposals in this one area as well, dealing with technology to get us away from petroleum-based products and fuels. So we see a lot of new fuels from plants and different types of crop sources, as well as bio-based products like different kinds of plastics and things like that. The plant production and then protection engineering topic area is similar to that other one I mentioned earlier, which is biology focused. This one's engineering focused. This is really dealing with how to get crops out of the field and moving them through the processing and getting them into the supermarket. There's also ways to deal with pests and pathogens during that processing. So we see a lot of robotics technologies that come in under this one, and it's also one of our bigger topic areas. So the last two in blue, which is our rural and community development and our small and mid-sized farms topic areas, we're different in SBIR in that we can take an off-the-shelf technology that's already been well established. You can find it and use the technology, but you're changing this application and you're using it to help a rural community thrive and survive, or you're helping a small and mid-sized farmer maintain profitability. So these two topic areas are kind of cool. We get a lot of proposals for them. But basically, the rural and community development is just that, helping rural communities that are not near an urban environment maintain themselves and thrive. And then small and mid-sized farms is helping those small and mid-sized farmers maintain profitability. Next slide, please. All right. So how can a university and government scientist be involved in the program? Basically, there's several different ways this can be done, and the biggest way we see it is through subcontracting to the universities as well as to USDA labs. It's permitted, and we strongly encourage it to happen. There's a few things you got to consider, though, if you're going to go down that route. Scientists may serve as a consultant and receive a subcontract or receive a subcontract on an SBIR grant. But there's some rules where under phase one, no more than 1/3 of the grant cost can go towards that consultant or that subcontract. And under two, half of the grant can go towards the consultant or the subcontract. And that would still allow the scientist or the university partner or the lab folks to continue to work full-time at their institution if you went that route. University scientists may serve as the principal investigator on the grant, but you have to reduce your employment at your home institution by 49% for the duration of the grant. Show that you're working for the company that submitted. So you need to keep that in mind if you're going to try to go that route. And last thing, it's usually not acceptable for university or government scientists to serve as consultants and have all the research done in their lab. We like to see some of that work needs to be done by the small company. So next slide, please.
Sure. Scott, this is Mallory. Could you sum up, please?
Okay. This is our schedule for our solicitation. This will be for FY17 funding. So next slide, please. Okay, I'm not going to go through the success story slides, so I'll just end it there, and be happy to take questions at the end. Thanks, Mallory.
Thank you, Scott. That was very informative. This is Bill Hoffman. We're queuing up the next presentation as we speak, and Mallory will introduce the speaker.
Yes, this presentation is on NIFA's bioenergy program. It's being presented by William Goldner.
Thank you, Mallory. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar. I just want to brief you about the National Institute of Food and Agriculture and what we perceive is our role in the future of biofuels, biopower, chemicals, and bio-based products from biomass feedstock resources. Next slide, please. Now, many of you haven't really thought about the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, but our mission is to invest in and advance agricultural research, education, and investment to catalyze transformative discoveries, education, and engagement to address agricultural challenges. Next slide, please. Toward that end, we put together a sustainable bioenergy and bioproducts team where we have a number of key players, including Daniel Cassidy, Ken Hunt, Rodney Vance, and Jillian Worden, and of course Louis Tupas is our Institute Director. I'm Bill Goldner. I'm the Acting Division Director for the Sustainable Bioenergy Bioproducts team. Next slide, please. Yeah, for the Sustainable Bioenergy and Bioproducts, we actually have a very specific vision, and that's to facilitate the development of sustainable regional production systems for biofuels, biopower, industrial chemicals, and bio-based products, and do this through partnerships and collaboration, and hoping to improve rural economic vitality, ecosystem services, and national energy security. Next slide, please. I think it's important to provide you with a little bit of background. Back when we were the Cooperative State Research, Education, and Extension Service, and boy, am I glad that we don't have to say that again, in the time before the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, we were investing about $7 million a year in the Ag Food Research Initiative, AFRI, and most of that was going to cellulosic enzymatic production of ethanol, cellulosic ethanol. However, in 2008-2009, when NIFA was born, we were given a much larger role to play, and we determined that in support of Renewable Fuel Standard 2, we would go ahead and have a Sustainable Bioenergy Challenge, the challenge area that Mallory mentioned before, and come at it in a big way. And since that time, we've been investing close to somewhere between $100 and $200 million a year in across all of our programs in biofuels and bio-based products. The Ag Food Research Initiative, Sustainable Bioenergy Challenge, from 2010 until 2015, we had a number of coordinated agricultural projects, which I'll mention in more detail on the next slides. We also had an education program. Back up one slide, please. Thanks. Standard research priorities, which range from year to year, from anything from land use change to co-products from conversion to feedstock crop protection to water impacts of bioenergy, et cetera. We also have a joint program in feedstock genomics with the Office of Science of the Department of Energy, and that's an ongoing program looking at improving the genetics of cellulosic and oilseed crop genetics. We also have, from the Farm Bill, Biomass Research and Development Initiative, the Critical Agricultural Materials Program, and Scott just went through the SBIR program. And also we have a program called the Sun Grants, which addresses feedstock development and production. Next slide, please. These coordinated agricultural projects are really been very, very important to the portfolio that we have. We have some of these grants have been very large and have involved multiple institutions. We focused on non-food feedstocks, as you can see the list that's right here. And we're really looking for a translational systems approach, and I think that's really critical. Normally, different agencies would fund things like conversion or feedstock development or production. What we've done here is try to basically ratchet up an entire regional supply chain, going all the way from feedstock development and production, all the way across through feedstock logistics conversion, and markets and distribution, and also a sustainability analysis. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, sustainability analysis is really critical, and we're not looking just at economic sustainability, which is key to making these production systems come into being, but also environmental sustainability and the impact on the communities that are going to receive new industrial footprints. Next slide, please. These are the 7 existing coordinated agricultural projects. They range across the country. You can see they cover a wide geographic area and a very diverse sector of feedstocks. Forest residues and woody biomass are certainly very prevalent. They're the sort of the biomass that's ready to go now, but we've actually had tremendous work on perennial grasses, energy cane, sorghum, and some others. Next slide, please. By the way, those 7 projects represent a total of $156 million investment over periods of 5 years. Here, looking ahead towards 2016, the way that the circumstances are now with extremely low oil and natural gas prices, we're looking to not only address liquid transportation fuels, but also industrial chemicals and bio-based products. One of the issues that's come up, though, in the 2014 Farm Bill is that the biomass research and development, which had peaked at $40 million a year, was drastically cut in the Farm Bill to only $3 million a year. So what we've been doing is have that go every 2 years. We'll have an RFA come out with the Department of Energy's Bioenergy Technology Office. The Ag Food Research Initiative, however, we're going to have new money in 2016. We've been on a hiatus for 2014, 2015, where we were pretty much just funding continuation awards. But now we're going to, for the first time, we're going to have a role in the foundational area in the Bioenergy and Natural Resources and Environment foundational program, where we're going to have 2 priorities. We're also expecting to have some key projects come up in the Sustainable Bioenergy Challenge area. It was always our intent to have more of the coordinated agricultural projects than we currently have, and we are hoping that we'll be able to fund some additional projects. And if you think about how we're refocusing, those projects may not only deal with liquid transportation fuels, but also chemicals and bio-based products. In addition to that, we're going to be continuing the feedstock genomics program at the Department of Energy Office of Science. Next, please. One of the things to keep in mind is the role that your institution may play in a much larger enterprise. One of the things that's come about over the past 4 or 5 years is an intensification of coordination between federal agencies. Here's a couple of these enterprises that are getting off the ground, including Alternative Jet Fuel Research Strategic Plan, which is sponsored by the White House's Office of Science and Technology Policy and is led by the Federal Aviation Administration. We also have the billion-ton bioeconomy effort moving forward, and this is USDA, DOE, EPA, all the federal agencies that you could think of, National Science Foundation, really looking to see how we can create a dramatically increasing bioeconomic engine for the country. We are working very closely with the Bioenergy Technology Office of the Department of Energy and have a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Science, the Office of Science, also of DOE. And finally, there's been a considerable effort to get a biomanufacturing or a nanosellulosic manufacturing innovation institute to the National Network of Manufacturing Innovation Institute program. The last slide, this is our last slide here, just for folks that might be interested. We're actually a small division right now, but we're aiming to build up. And we currently, within the next few weeks, we should have a position announcement on the street for an agricultural bioproducts national program leader. And coming later in the year would be feedstock logistics and probably feedstock development and production national program leaders. So I'll be around to take questions at the question break. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill. That was very informative. I'll remind people that there is, particularly the speakers, that there is about a 2-second delay from when we advance the slides until when you and the rest of the participants will see it up on the screen. So just keep that in mind as you ask us to advance the slides. Mallory is going to be introducing the next speaker.
Our next speaker on food safety programs is Jody Williams.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar for NAPA. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Division of Food Safety's competitive grant programs. And I'll begin talking about the Agriculture Food Research Initiative programs that have under the Food Safety Challenge area, and then the foundational programs, our basic research programs, and then I'll follow up with other programs, the National Food Safety Training, Education, Extension, Outreach, and Technical Assistance Program. So the Food Safety Challenge area is our integrated program. There were 2 priorities listed in 2015, and these do tend to change from year to year. The first program that we'll talk about is the Enhancing Food Safety Through Improved Processing Technologies program, which was an $8 million program total. There were 2 projects awarded, $2 million per project per year for 4 years. And the program looked to develop or improve thermal and or non-thermal processing technologies for effective decontamination and inactivation of pathogens in food and food products. The program also looked to develop strategies to prevent cross-contamination during processing, packaging, transportation, or storage. And as Mallory mentioned earlier, these are challenge areas. This was an integrated program, and so these projects had 2 of the 3 components of research, education, and or extension. The success rate for this program was about 15% in 2015. Next slide. Thank you, Mallory. The next program we'll talk about is also falls under the food safety challenge area, and it is also integrated. This was a $4 million program in 2015. Projects were $1 million per project total, and those projects are 4-year projects for a total of $1 million again per project, and there are 4 awards in those projects. This particular program looked at the effective mitigation strategies for antimicrobial resistance. Projects were solicited looking to develop novel systems, approaches to investigate the ecology of microbial resistance gene reservoirs in the environment, and that can be soil, water, air, or the storage environment. Also looking for those resistant gene reservoirs in animals, in food products, or in farm-raised aquaculture products. The proposals also solicited, the request for applications, also solicited projects that looked at identifying critical control points for mitigating antimicrobial resistance in the pre- and post-harvest food production environment. Projects also look to develop, evaluate, and implement effective and sustainable strategies, techniques, technologies, or tools that mitigate the emergent, spread, or persistence of antimicrobial resistant pathogens within the agricultural ecosystem in animals, in crops, and in foods. Again, this is an integrated program, so they also looked for projects that developed training, education, and outreach resources, including those resources available on the web that can be adapted by users across the food chain to include policymakers, producers, processors, retailers, and consumers. They also looked at integrating design and conduct studies that evaluate the impact and efficacy of proposed research, education, and extension outreach interventions on antimicrobial resistance across the food chain. The success rate for these particular programs were at about 16%. The individuals to be contacted for the food safety challenge areas are Dr. Hansa Chen. He provided leadership to the Process and Technologies program, and his contact information is available here. And Dr. Mervelyn Morant provided leadership to the antimicrobial resistance program in 2015. The next program that I'll talk a little bit about is the AFRI Foundational Program. It's a basic research program, and the food safety programs, food safety priorities found under the basic research program are found in the Food Safety, Nutrition, and Health section of the foundational request for application. The Improving Food Quality Program was a $4.7 million program in 2015. And the program has kind of a 2-pronged approach. They're looking at, from the basic science side, looking at the physical, chemical, and biological properties of food and food ingredients. These projects should look to improve quality, shelf life, convenience, nutrient value, and or the sensory attributes of food. From the kind of engineering perspective, these projects will be looking to develop innovative food processing and packaging materials and technologies. Again, these technologies should look to promote food quality by reducing post-harvest losses in foods and extend the shelf life of foods. The success rate for these programs, for the Improving Food Quality Program in 2015, was about 12%, which is typical from year to year. The next program that I'll talk a little bit about is the Improving Food Safety Program. That is a $4.7 million program as well. This program looks to develop, and these are basic research programs, so they tend to be single university and single investigator funded projects. So just to kind of give you some background on that. So they're not those large projects, and they're about $500,000 per project, and that's for both improving food quality and improving food safety. These programs look to develop and validate the food safety program in 2015 solicited proposals to develop and validate novel concentration and purification methods for the rapid, low-cost, and efficient isolation or capture of viable or infectious pathogens from foods or environmental samples that are related to food production, harvesting, and processing. So these projects are not and, these are all or. So the other priorities look to elucidate physical and molecular mechanisms that allow foodborne hazards to internalize in fresh and fresh-cut produce or nuts. They also look to investigate the state or dissemination of foodborne hazards in fresh or fresh-cut produce, and that's for the food contact surfaces that are associated with these particular products during production and or processing. There's also an emerging issues program that looks to identify and characterize emerging or under-researched foodborne hazards, and then or to look at developing control strategies for known foodborne hazards that have been found on found on previously unrecognized food vehicles. So non-traditional commodity pathogen pairs basically is what this particular priority area is looking towards. The success rate for the Improving Food Safety Program in 2015 was at about 12%. The individuals to contact for these particular programs for the foundational area is myself, Jody Williams, for Improving Food Quality, and Dr. Isabel Walls for the Improving Food Safety Program. The last and final program I will discuss today is the National Food Safety Training, Education, Extension, Outreach, and Technical Assistance Program. It's listed in the congressional language as a Food Safety Outreach Program, so it kind of toggles between those two terms in terms of programming. But the request for application title is a National Food Safety Training, Extension, Education, Outreach, and Technical Assistance Program, which is quite a mouthful. In 2015, this program solicited for 2 regional centers to enhance food safety at $2.3 million total. So it was about $1.15 million per center. The 2 centers we solicited for were in the southern and western regions. We worked collaboratively with the Food and Drug Administration. They established a national coordination center, and they also solicited for 2 additional regional centers in the northeast and the north central regions, so that we can have a full national network of these regional centers coordinated through that national coordination center. These food safety education training programs or requests for applications look for projects that lead, manage, coordinate, develop, and implement food safety education training programs that address the Food Safety Modernization Act guidelines. They also look to identify, recruit, and train food safety education trainers within those identified regions, to coordinate that curriculum development up to the National Coordination Center so that everything can be nationally coordinated, and also make sure that all those different programs adjust the new FSMA guidelines. We also wanted to make sure that ensure that the training reaches the small and medium-sized farms, beginning farmers, socially disadvantaged farmers, small food processors, and small fruit and vegetable vendors. And the program did made attempts to make sure that we solicited proposals that would address these hard-to-reach audiences. The success rate for that particular program was at 33%. I also provide leadership. Thank you, Howard. I just want to let you know that I provide leadership to this program as well. So if you have any questions on the National Food Safety Training Extension, Education Extension, Outreach, and Technical Assistance Program, I am the contact individual for that program.
Thank you very much, Jody. And while I'm switching out the slides, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Rachel Melnick, on climate programs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Melnick. I work in the Division of Global Climate Change here at USDA NIFA, which is under the Institute of Bioenergy, Climate, and Environment. So we work closely with the bioenergy program, and I'm going to discuss our climate portfolio. Next slide, please. So in fiscal year 2016, as it has been in the past, our climate portfolio at NIFA is a combination of capacity funds. So we have climate-related projects from Hatch formula dollars, as well as McIntyre Center for Forestry money, as well as other funding sources. We have the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, which we have a specific climate change challenge area. However, we would like to mention here and throughout the talk that climate change is a cross-cutting initiative across USDA NIFA, so we do not just fund climate change-related work simply out of the climate change challenge area. We have projects right now. We are just starting to undergo an analysis of our portfolio for the past 5 years, And we have found projects within food security, our Water for Agriculture Challenge area, programs within foundational that include the Exploratory Research Program and CARE, as well as other programs. So our Climate Change Challenge area supports activities that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase carbon sequestration in agricultural and forest production systems. We see agriculture as not just production, agriculture of crops and animals, but also rangeland, grasslands, and forestry. And we want to do this to prepare the nation's agriculture and forests to adapt to a variable climate. The long-term outcome is reducing the use of energy, nitrogen, and water while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. So within our climate portfolio, we have our internal programs, but we have a history of having joint grant solicitations with other funding agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, and NASA. Some of our past programs with NSF have been water sustainability and climate, and we've had ESOM, which is a modeling-based program that was joint with both NSF and Department of Energy. To continue with this joint interagency work, we have a new solicitation out called Innovations at the Nexus of Food, Energy, and Water Systems, or INFUSE. And the goal of this program is to catalyze the well-integrated interdisciplinary, that is underlined and bold for a reason, research that will transform our scientific understanding of the food, energy, and water nexus in order to improve systems functions and management. So overall, the goal of this is to have interdisciplinary research teams that actually address the interactions between the food, energy, and water at the systems level at the nexus. The solicitation was released December 22nd. It is $50 million for the solicitation and grants ranging from $0 to $3 million for up to 3 years. And there are 4 tracks: modeling, decision support tools, technological solutions, and an education track. So this is a partnership with the National Science Foundation. There's a joint solicitation released through NSF. So what does this mean for our applicants that we have a joint solicitation? So what will happen is all applications will come into NSF. They will do gathering of the applications and the compliance check of applications. However, all panels will be jointly arranged by NSF and USDA NIFA through our program officers. We will have joint people that we put on the panel, so it won't just be an NSF panel, it's an NSF and NIFA panel. And NIFA-funded projects will be required to, if what happens is we choose after the panel which projects we will fund, you will resubmit your application to NIFA, but you've already been reviewed. That's simply to get it into our system. And as we have in the past, we will have joint project investigator or project director meetings. So that solicitation's out now. I tried to keep it short in order to keep up to date with things. We will be having a climate change challenge area solicitation in fiscal year 2016 that has not been released yet. In the past, we have had focus areas on small projects such as microbial communities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to large coordinated agricultural projects. So we've had a wide range of standard grants and CAP awards and other related projects in that area. If you have any questions specifically about INFUSE, I am the NIFA lead for that project, so please feel free to contact me. My email is on the screen. Or if you have any questions about the climate portfolio in general, please feel to email me and I can direct you to my colleagues within the Division of Global Climate Change and they can answer questions. We tend to switch off who leads our climate change challenge area RFA between the years. So I can direct you to Michael Bowers, who will be leading the solicitation this year.
Thank you very much. As I change the slides, I would like to introduce Matthew Nuaggio, who will be speaking about food security programs.
Thank you, Mallory. Thank you for the introduction. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on where our attendees are. So I will be giving a short presentation on the food security challenge area. Okay, the slide is there, so next one. And as Mallory told you, AFRI in general is what we call our flagship program here at NIFA. Next one. It looks like we are a little short, but just to give you a background on where the food security challenge area fits. Normally, within AFRI, we have what we call the foundational program. We have the fellowships and the challenge area. And within those challenge area, we have 6 of them. Next. And the 6 challenge areas that we have are listed there, but just wanted to make sure again that food security is one of those 6 challenge areas that we have. And we have a working definition here for what we understand by food security. I think you will probably have the slide, no need to call to read everything, but it's a situation where all people, have at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences. And again, we all know that we have the world population is increasing very fast. We need to meet the challenges of that growing world population. Next one. And how do we feed that growing population with minimum footprint on the environment? We know that reducing global poverty and hunger is today recognized by all of us as a national security issue. And many initiatives within the government are on the way, including the Feed the Future that is led by USAID. But within USDA and NIFA, the food security portfolio is a major domestic initiative that will address hunger in the world. And we need to have new discoveries and technologies for domestic agriculture, but also with global implications. That's why we think this program, food security, has to play a key role in achieving those goals. The food security challenge area cover all 4 divisions within our Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. So again, this is very important to know. It covers the division of agricultural systems, animal systems, plant system production, and protection. So it's a challenge area that will cover pretty much everything that we do here at NIFA. And the RFA is developed in rotation within those 4 divisions. Just to give you an idea of what has been covered since 2010, which was the first year that this challenge area was offered, these were the priorities. It was improving feed efficiency in animals, minimizing losses from disease with major impact, OMR seeds, phytosystems, and also looking at extension and pest monitoring and sustainable food system. 2012, again, we have more priorities because there was no program in 2011. But again, no need to list all those. We'll move to the next one. In 2013, we have a smaller, the scope was a little bit reduced to reducing crops and livestock losses and food security conferences. We have a block of conferences that were funded in 2013 within this program. In 2014, the RFA focused on diseases of crops and livestock. 2015, which is last year, very recent, we have 3 major priorities, one on agricultural production systems, one on breeding, and one on a national strategy. So just to go into the detail, in 2015, we had about $26.5 million for the program. And for the first priority on agricultural systems, we were looking at crop management systems, animal management systems, and integrated crop and animal systems, a situation where you fully integrate those two production systems. The program was funding 1 to 4 years per award, with up to $4 million per award. Next. The second priority on breeding and genomics of crop and livestock, we funded a project for 1 to 3 years and $3 million per award. Next. And the last priority was looking at, really forward-looking at developing a national strategy for sustainable crop and livestock production in the U.S. And there we were funding projects between 1 and 2 years for $500,000 each project. So what is next for 2016? For 2016, at this point, again, I told you the RFA is developed within 4 divisions. So I now was the leader last year because our division was taking the lead for this. This year is a completely different team. So the budget is about $34 million, and the priorities at this point we don't know. It won't be known until the RFA is released, and that RFA will be released sometime between February and March if everything goes well, because it was delayed a little bit this year because of the new Farm Bill provision on commodity boards. So be ready, and like Mallory told you, make sure you read that RFA. That's the key. Make sure you read it and make sure your project fits within the scope of that RFA. Next. So again, in 2015, I served as the team leader for the Agri-Food Security. And as the new RFA comes, is published, you will have a new contact person for the 2016 that will be in that RFA. But in the meantime, if you have any question on the food security, I'm willing to answer. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And as I pull up the next presentation, I have Antonio McLaren here to present on our education program.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio McLaren. I am the National Program Leader for the Higher Education Challenge Grants Program. I work in the Division of Community and Education at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and I'm going to cover 4 separate programs today, one of which is a program that I provide leadership for. So I'm going to move rather quickly through these 4 programs. So just to cover what I'm going to be speaking about, I'll be covering the Multicultural Scholarship Grants Program, Higher Education Challenge Grants Program, the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, Education and Literacy Initiative, which provides support for undergraduate, predoctoral, and postdoctoral fellowships. PD for K-12 teachers is a new concept that is built into the 2016 program. And lastly, I will cover the Hispanic Serving Institution Education Grants Program. The Multicultural Scholars Program has a total appropriation of $990,000. So the range of the awards, it's $20,000 to up to a max of $200,000. It has a 25% funding rate. I provided a link to you so that if you wanted more information about the program, you're more than welcome to review it. This program operates in a sort of a different cycle. So the RFA for 2016 will be released in the summer. So if you want more information, please visit the link. The 2015 information is still live. The program leader for this is Dr. Ray Ali. And the purpose of the program is it's really looking at increasing the multicultural diversity of underrepresented students pursuing the food, ag, scientific disciplines, and really trying to pipeline them into the workforce. The degree types of emphasis include undergraduate and DVM, so Doctors of Veterinary Medicine. Eligible institutions includes public and private college universities that offer baccalaureate and DVM degrees in the food and ag sciences. So here's the available funding. The way it works is that for scholarship support, it provides $6,500 per student per year for up to a max of 4 years. There's a $2,500 per student cost of education allowance, And also there's a student experiential learning of $4,000 per scholar. And the categories are below: single institution, student experiential learning, $200,000 for single institution, and for students looking at student experiential learning opportunities, there's a max of $20,000. I'm transitioning now to the Higher Education Challenge Grants Program. This is the program that I provide leadership for at NIFA. Right now, we have an appropriation of $4.77 million. There is a 20% funding rate for this program. The link there is available if you want more information. The RFA is expected to be released next month, so please stay tuned for that. The purpose of this program is to improve baccalaureate, master's, and DVM degree levels in the food, ag, natural resources, and human sciences. And there are really three broad educational need areas which are listed there for your information. I'm not going to read them to you. This program has broad eligibility. So as you can see, all land grants, Hispanic serving institutions, and public and private institutions of higher education are eligible. These are the different project types. There are 4: conference, regular, joint, and large scale, with maximum amounts of $30,000, $150K, $300K, and $750,000 respectively. Now I'm going to transition into the Food, Ag, Natural Resources, and Human Sciences ELI program, the Education Literacy Initiative. This program, the RFA is actually live, so this one is open for applications right now. There are $18.9 million available in funding. It really provides fellowships for undergrad, pre-doctoral, postdoctoral students in the ag sciences. And what's new for 2016 is professional development for K-12 teachers. The link is there for more information about this program. So it does focus on developing opportunities for undergrad students looking to get hands-on experience to join the ag workforce, as well as technical and functional competence for pre-doctoral students so that they can have research independence. Broad goals is really to promote research and extension experiential learning for undergrads, as well as to be able to support them entering the ag workforce, and as well as preparing the next generation of scientists through doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships. These are the program priority areas. These are you actually have already seen during this webinar, so these are also on the website. I'm not going to read them to you. Again, these are the AFRI Farm Bill priority areas. I'm not going to read them to you. So broad eligibility for this program. I'm not going to read them all to you, but as you can see, colleges and universities, including junior colleges, are eligible for this program. In terms of the fellowships, we're really looking at focusing on research, education, and extension objectives aligned with our challenge and foundational program areas. We're looking to award well-developed academic experiences. We're looking for productive and interactive mentoring, and as well as appropriate and applicable training activities so that fellows will be prepared to join the workforce. Again, this is a new concept that I mentioned earlier. There is a webinar, information webinar on February 8th at 3 p.m. The deadline for the PD for K-12 educators program under this initiative is March 18th. Again, there's broad eligibility, including the Hispanic serving institutions, 1994 land grants, and four-year colleges and universities. These are all your deadlines. Please pay attention to these, so they're all laid out for you. I'm not going to read them, but the soonest ones, obviously, are the pre-doctoral and postdoctoral, February 11th. The last one is March 24th for undergraduate fellowships. Last but not least, Hispanic Serving Institution Education Grants Program. This one has a max award of up to $500,000. It's really built to support the teaching of food and ag sciences at the Hispanic Serving Institutions. 6 need areas are listed there for your information. There are 3 levels of funding. So you have strengthening standard and collaboration grants. Each has different funding ranges, which are all listed there for you, and the deadlines for these applications are also listed there. So this RFA is actually live right now. The link is also provided for your information if you need more information about the program, as well as information about the details of the RFA. And the last slide I have for you, this is the content information for all the programs that I discussed. Dr. Rayal Lee is the National Program Leader for the AFRI Education Literacy Initiative. I am the National Program Leader for Higher Education Challenge Grants Program. Dr. Rayal Lee is also the National Program Leader for the Multicultural Scholars Program. And Dr. Irma Lawrence is the National Program Leader for the Hispanic Serving Institutions Education Grants Program. And again, the AFRI RFA and the Hispanic Serving Institutions Grants RFA are online. They're live right now. Higher Education Challenge Grants we'll expect to be live next month. Multicultural Scholars Program we expect to be live in the summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm now going to advance the slides and invite Salia Afel-Famuli to discuss what we call the WAMS program, Women and Minorities in STEM Fields.
Thank you. I'm here, and for these two programs, similar to what my colleague Antonio just alluded to, they should be up and running for fiscal year 2015 pretty soon. They're in the process of review and should be done. We're almost there. So hang in there, and like my colleagues have advised, to always go to our website to check when they are released, officially released. WAMS, acronym for Women and Minorities in the STEM field, Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics fields program, will also be funded or has been funded and approved congressionally, and should be up, like I said earlier. And of course, this program helps increase the participation of women and underrepresented minorities from, and this is great because it gives an opportunity to women and underrepresented minorities to come in. The goal, of course, is to support the programs to further recruit and increase recruitment and retention of these programs that will increase the number of women and underrepresented minorities from rural areas to complete their post-secondary education in STEM-related programs or degrees. And, of course, partnerships across academic institutions and employers may come in terms of enhancing their capacity as well as their idea in terms of how to reach out to this population or populations. Eligible institutions, of course, are like, for example, as in your one-pager, state agricultural experiment stations, colleges and universities, research foundations, so on and so forth, as listed, including individuals. And individuals meaning those who are already, working or employed in these institutions, and also can reach out to partner with other colleagues with similar interests. And of course, priority will be given to eligible institutions that carry out the continuing programs funded by the Secretary, of course. Now, as you may see that the funding is only $400,000 so far, and this year it's the same, and you'll also note how much will be given to each application. The list also gives the examples of selected abstracts, that are identified in the WAMS program. And this is, even though that the funding may be small, but it's a very good example of a program in STEM-related fields reaching out to the underrepresented minorities, both men and women, in rural areas. So I will not go any further into what this may be when it will be officially posted, but it should be coming out very soon as well. We're almost finished with the review process. The other program, Capacity Building Grants for Non-Land Grant Colleges of Agriculture, their purpose also is to support these non-land grant colleges to carry out the three-pronged mission, as you all know, in land grant colleges, research, education, and extension programs, of course, in food and agricultural sciences, or in other words, food, agriculture, naturally renewable resources, and human sciences to support a sustainable agriculture system nationwide. And so for the non-land grant colleges, fortunately, the funding has increased tremendously. It just came out about $4.65 million this year. And again, as I said earlier, that please continue checking into the website so you will see the final dates for your application, and make sure that you submit it on time through grants.gov. As you see, the reason for this program, as I mentioned earlier, is to support the non-land grant colleges in carrying out the three-pronged mission, education, research, and outreach activities related to food and agricultural sciences, and promoting, interest in these populations of women and minorities in rural areas. So it'll be great. Also, while I'm remembering in my mind right now, you're very welcome to come in if you're interested in serving on our panels to review these applications. Basically, all of these programs have, similar evaluation processes, and also invitation to stakeholder input, because we need to hear from everyone nationwide on their thoughts about these programs, on enhancing the programs as we work on it from year to year. So here we are with this program. Like the rest of our programs, we are here to enhance food and agricultural sciences and to promote the interest of individuals, students, everyone in agriculture, as well as growing the population of agriculturists or those interested in food and agricultural sciences to reach out and serve in the nation, in where you are, and so forth. Again, just not to be redundant, the NLGCA, or Non-Land Grant Colleges of Agriculture institutions, may use this funding to successfully compete for funds from federal governments and other sources. And this is, again, to carry out educational, research, and outreach activities, which will definitely address priority concerns of national, regional, state, and local interest. And, of course, to use this funding to disseminate information relating to priority concerns, as we talked about, as well as also to encourage members of agriculture to participate in priority education research outreach by providing matching to leverage grant funds through purchasing, acquiring equipment or the infrastructure. Mind you, what I mean here is not, building buildings, but to enhance equipment in the lab, for example, to teach a class, the infrastructure in the classroom, also for professional growth and development of faculty, as well as the development of graduate assistantships. So these are all the ideas and what we intend to offer this program for, and to also fund so that we can increase interest in food and agricultural sciences. And that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be Jill Auburn.
Hello, folks. I'm going to discuss 3 programs that have two things in common. They're led by program staff in the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. And probably more important than that is they all address issues in key sectors of the agricultural industry. So rather than being subject-oriented or disciplinary-oriented, they're really audience-oriented, and they cut across the subject lines to address things in very interdisciplinary manners. So production, marketing, economics, social sciences all come into play in all 3 of these programs. The first one I'll talk about is one that I co-lead with Dennis Ebadagi, and that's the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. This program aims to help people get started in agriculture as farmers or ranchers or operators of non-industrial private forest land, and also those who are managing those operations but are in their first 10 years of running their own operations, to help them be more successful in those first 10 years when they may be more vulnerable. Now, the eligibility for this program is very, very broad, but it requires a collaborative network or partnership of organizations. So a university definitely can be in the lead on one of these proposals. A nonprofit organization other than the university, a community-based organization, can be in the lead on one of these proposals. Personally, I think the best proposals are where those 2 types of organizations work together. But either way, you cannot go it alone and put in an application to this program. You have to have collaborative partners or members of your network. The standard grants this year were offered for up to $200,000 per year. That was down. We reduced the amount a little bit from last year, somewhat by stakeholder input primarily. Our success rate had gone down. You can see down in the lower left-hand side that the success rate in 2015 had been only 15%. And that's because the number of applications that we got last year had grown in 2014 and 2015 to be pretty much double what had been submitted in earlier years. So the interest in the program was up. The success rate had gone down quite a bit. So we trimmed the upper amount just a little bit, and also started this year offering smaller standard grant applications. Since we have people putting in smaller proposals who we wanted to consider on their merits at that level. We have, besides standard grants, which are the ones that actually conduct training, education, mentoring, and technical assistance for new farmers, we have a category where we fund usually just 1 or 2 or 3 projects each year that are called educational enhancement teams. And these are proposals that pick a particular topic or audience or region and look across the country and say, what are the curricula that are out there, what are the methods that are out there that are working, what's missing, how do we fill the gaps, and then how do we share the educational curricula and material and methods that we've come up with, how do we share that with organizations that are actually doing on-the-ground training. So in a way, they are training the trainers towards the project. But most of our proposals and most of what we fund are standard grants that actually do the training. We have just passed our deadline for 2016 last week, so we will be putting a request for applications out likely next fall. We have funding from the Farm Bill, from the 2014 Ag Act, to carry out this program for each of the next 2 years as well. So that's one I would encourage you to get in touch with myself or Dennis Ebadagi if you would like to know more about that program. The second program that I'm speaking about is the Specialty Crop Research Initiative. Now, this is, not surprisingly, soliciting projects that aim to meet the needs of the specialty crop industry and help them be more successful. And specialty crops for us are fruits and vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, and horticultural and nursery crops, including flowers, floriculture. So that's what we mean by specialty crops, and proposals into this program can be of the different types listed in the slide. But the main thing is they should really be aimed at meeting the critical needs of the specialty crop industry through science-based solutions, so by developing and disseminating science-based tools. They can be different sizes, as you can see there, standard projects, larger cap projects, e-extension projects, which are ones that aim to develop knowledge networks and communities of practice in the e-extension knowledge system. Or they can be small planning projects. My colleagues Tom Bielik and Dan Schmolz are the leaders of this program, so they're the ones to go to with more detailed questions. And the SCRI, as we call it, is actually made up of two programs. It's a big umbrella program, SCRI, but a share of it is set aside for the citrus industry. So in SCRI, the focus should be assistance focus on those horticultural crops that I mentioned. You can see that it's a very competitive program, 13% success rate in 2015. And the next RFA will likely come out next fall in September. For the subset of the funds out of this program that go to citrus disease research and extension, the success rate is 23%, and the RFA will be coming out this spring. Now, both of these programs go through a two-step process. So there's a pre-proposal that gets reviewed by industry representatives for relevance, and then a second stage review of the proposal by scientific peer review is for technical merit. And both of those considerations, the relevancy and technical merit, go into the selection of which projects to fund. Next slide, please. Next, thank you. So the third program, or set of programs, is we call our Integrated Organic Program, and it's also made up of two programs. And actually, Matt Galagio, who was speaking about the food security programs, probably could do a better job of explaining this slide than I, but nevertheless, I'll carry on. So there are two programs serving the needs of the organic agriculture industry. Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative is the larger one. And the purpose of that is really to enhance the success of the organic industry, both producers and processors. And you can see, and that's why the bullet there says work on certified land. If you're looking at organic production, it should be certified organic, people who are practicing organic agriculture. There's a deadline in that request for applications of March 10th, so that's out and circulating. The sister program, which is a little bit smaller, is the Organic Transitions Program. It has a little bit smaller budget, but a comparable success rate, a little bit smaller project size. And the focus there is on both existing but also potentially transitioning organic producers who would want to transition into organic production. And the major focus of that, or certainly one of them of the request for applications there, is on the environmental services that organic systems offer to society. So things like soil conservation and climate change mitigation, greenhouse gas reduction is one of the kinds of environmental services that you might look into. The deadline for those applications is April 15th. And Matt Galagio and Steve Smith are the contacts for that program. And then I have one more slide, if I may. I think I have just a minute left. Mallory said location, location, location. I'm going to say in that, and I absolutely believe location, 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 the RFA is the most important thing for you to look at in the neighborhood. But there are a couple of other community facilities, if you will, in the RFA neighborhood. So I'm showing a screenshot here of what we call our funding opportunity page. I'm showing the one from the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. But really, all three of these programs, and basically most NIFA programs, have a funding opportunity page. And what you should look at, I would say even before the RFA, but particularly for those programs where you might be waiting for next year's RFA, I would say first look up at the very beginning of the page. There's a link there to what we call our program page. And if you go to that program page at that top link, you'll find a lot of related information about the program that may be very useful background as you are thinking about what you might want to propose and waiting for the next RFA to come out. Then certainly number two, the second thing you want to do is to carefully read the RFA, read it and reread it, and then click on the button for apply for a grant. I'm afraid too many people just go straight to applying and forget to do steps number one and number two. So I will stop there and let my colleagues see if there are any questions in the group Q&A period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jane Cleary, who will present nutrition programs.
Okay, while we're waiting for the slides to pop up, welcome. Thank you for attending our conference this afternoon. I'm Dr. Jane Cleary Loveless. I'm in the Institute of Food Safety and Nutrition. I work with Dr. Denise Eblin, who is our Deputy Director, Dr. Dion Toombs, who is our Nutrition Director, Dr. Deirdre Chester, Dr. Helen Chipman, Dr. Jody Williams, Ms. Stephanie Blake, Ms. Marley Diallo, and Dr. Mallory Keening. So welcome. I want to go over with you our nutrition portfolio this afternoon and give you a brief overview of the programs that we manage. So our nutrition portfolio sponsors nutrition-related research and partnerships with the Cooperative Extension Service, which is very important. We work with policymakers and the knowledge to make appropriate policies for our citizens, and we use stakeholder feedback in our RFAs and many of the work and research that we do. Next, our nutrition mission is that we want to develop a research base for guidance on diet and physical activity, develop and carry out effective educational, behavioral, and environmental strategies to help improve our nation's health, and we want to provide strong leadership for research, education, and extension. Next, our vision for the portfolio is to improve health, improve fitness, and improve the well-being of our nation through improved nutrition. Next, our goals for the nutrition portfolio include improving the knowledge about behavioral, cultural, and psychosocial factors that influence obesity. We want to develop a successful obesity prevention intervention and develop linkages between consumption of nutrients and other bioactive components found in our food and human health. And we want to develop those interventions that include dietary guidance and community food programs. Next, the Division of Nutrition, our goal and our focus is to manage a series of food, nutrition, and obesity prevention programs which will help Americans prevent the major causes of chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and certain types of cancer that are related to poor diet and lack of physical activity. Next, Michelle Obama, our First Lady, has helped us tremendously in focusing on nutrition issues in this country and has championed the reduction of childhood obesity. With her Partnership for a Healthier America and our Let's Move campaign, we've had a focus on this issue in the United States of childhood obesity. For the years that we've been working on this, we look at the research. For instance, this article that was in Time magazine said maybe after all we should have said eat better. And that's when the research came out and said that hydrogenated oils were not healthy. And so things that the public needs to be aware of course, we provide that research and the knowledge through working with research, education, and extension. But also people need to realize that research evolves, and what we do is build on the scientific discoveries that were in the previous years. It's an ongoing process. Next, our childhood obesity, this is the first time ever that a generation of children may have a shorter life expectancy at birth than their parents. This has been a huge issue across the country. Obese children are at a higher risk of heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and atherosclerosis, and they're twice as likely as their normal weight peers to develop certain cancers and may be less likely to survive others. Next. So obesity in children, the statistics from a 2015 article by Dr. Stephen Schwartz states that obesity is our most prevalent nutritional disorder among children and adolescents in the U.S. We have approximately 21 to 24% of American children and adolescents that are overweight, another 16 to 18% that are obese, and the prevalence of obesity is highest among specific ethnic groups. Next. So therefore, our program focuses on the AFRI Childhood Obesity Prevention Program, the AFRI Function and Efficacy of Nutrients, the Community Food Project, the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive, the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program, next, the Small Business and Innovative Research Program, and the Joint NIH-USDA Food-Specific Molecular Profiles and Biomarkers of Food and Nutrient Intake and Dietary Exposure. So the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program, FNEP, is a formula grant, and it is funded through our Section 3D of the Smith-Lever Act. And in 1962, our 1862s and our 1890 institutions are all eligible to participate in this program. Last year, the budget was $67,934,000. Next. So the Expanded Food Nutrition Program, they had in 2014 more than 500,000 low-income program adults and youth participants that were reached through FNEP. 72% of the population is from the minority populations. FNEP has delivered consistent results. 95% graduate with improved diets, including extra fruits and vegetables. 86% youth and children improve their food choices through the dietary guidelines. 44% of youth and children improve their physical activity levels or gain knowledge to do so, and 38% increase their physical activity. Next. So our portfolio highlights briefly are the Community Food Program, which we had $5 million in 2014, and with the 2014 Farm Bill, we now have $9 million for a success rate of 18 to 20%. So from here on out during this Farm Bill, we have the $9 million. A couple highlights: Camden Groves in New Jersey, they had harvested over 1,000 pounds of spring crops from 14 gardens. The Food Bank of Delaware, their community-supported agriculture, distributed 45,000 pounds of food, and they fund projects that are comprehensive community solutions for the community, and so they are relying on their community to help support the program. FINI is a new program which started with the funding in 2014-2015, and the importance of this that it serves the SNAP population so they are able to purchase fruits and vegetables through incentives. Next. So the Food Insecurity Nutrition highlight we had for the 2014-2015, $31.5 million, and for this next fiscal year we have $16,800,000. We funded 31 projects across 26 states up to 4 years for $31.5 million, and we had 16 FINI pilot projects, 7 FINI projects, and 8 FINI large scale. So a couple of examples of the Food Security Nutrition Incentive is the Florida Certified Organic Growers and the Fresh Access Bucks that they do there. Next. The Regional Nutrition and Education and Obesity Prevention Centers We have provided out of our AFRI Childhood Obesity Fund $4 million to secure and establish 4 centers to conduct research on nutrition education and obesity prevention. Next. SBIR, we had a full program, and that we had a full discussion on that by Scott, so I won't spend much time on this, but Scott Duckham and Dr. Jody Williams can provide you SBIR information. They do an excellent job in managing these programs, and there is a nutrition focus with SBIR. For the AFRI Childhood Obesity Prevention Program, Dr. Chester and I work with this program, and as you can see that we had in 2015 $5,886,000 to work with, which was the standard conference and base grants, and Dr. Keating covered this quite well, so I won't spend any additional time on that. But we did have 15 publications that came out of the 2013-2014. So some highlights that we've integrated, we funded 4 integrated projects, 2 seed grants and 2 conference grants. The success rate for the childhood obesity is 14%, and we had an I-4H program that did very well in working with researchers and extension faculty, and this was to reduce childhood obesity in rural low-income populations. Next. The outcome, this portfolio has also supported smarter lunchrooms. This research is being done at Cornell University. Brian Wansig does an excellent job, and they're using research techniques to help increase student acceptance of healthful food and to reduce food waste and food loss. The AFRI Function and Efficacy of Nutrients Foundational Program is run by Dr. Chester, and the background of this is to focus on the role of bioactive components, and the justification must be provided for the relationship of the components being studied to human health and outcomes, and the program focuses on whole food approach. And what we're looking to do is address the health effects of that. So for 2015, we had $4.6 million, and we received 68 applications. The success rate was 18%. Next. An example is that the ARS folks at the Regional Nutrition Center, they looked at disease risk reduction of researching and eating foods enriched in long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, which are strongly associated with the reduction of cardiovascular disease. The NIH USDA food-specific molecular profiles and biomarkers, this is also a program Dr. Chester manages. We received 8 proposals, funded 1, and we also have $5 million committed for 2015, 2016, and 2017. Next. So other responsibilities, we work with all these other agencies on grants, proposals, working on the dietary guidelines. CMPP is the promoter of the MyPlate. We work with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and we work with INCOR, which is the National Collaborative on Childhood Obesity. Other key responsibilities include working with committees on the dietary guidelines. We want to synthesize the research findings. We prepare reports for Congress. We help set the National Nutrition Research Education and Extension agenda and work with our public and private partners. Next. So to wrap up, we are working to provide a healthy, nourished population. We depend on strong research and education programs in human nutrition. We partner with the Cooperative Extension Service to deliver community-based nutrition, and we work with families, individuals, and communities to make this happen. So the psychological health, economic, and social well-being are all important in this process. So on the next slide, I have the individuals I mentioned. Dr. Helen Chipman runs the FNET program. Dr. Jody Williams is in food safety. Dr. Dion Toombs is our nutrition division director. Dr. Chester works with the AFRI Childhood Obesity Function and Efficacy of Nutrients in the new NIH USDA program on the components for food-specific molecular profiles and biomarkers. So Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to email us. We're at your disposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to invite our moderator back for the question and answer session.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you can dial #2 on your telephone keypad to put yourself into the queue. You'll hear a notification when your line is unmuted, at which point you can state your name and your question. If your question is answered before we get to you, you can dial #2 a second time to take yourself out of the queue. And we do have a question in queue. Susan, go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Pia Gabriel. I am helping a PI to prepare a proposal for the HSI competition, a strengthening grant. And we were going through the RFA, and the question we have is, we are currently receiving McIntyre Stennis funds for cooperative forestry research, and the RFA indicates that if an institution is eligible for McIntyre Stennis funds, that institution would not be required to provide matching funds. First question, is that correct?
Thank you for the question. So this is Antonio McLaren. I was the representative who provided the presentation earlier, which included the HSI Education Grants Program. The best thing that I can give you, because I'm not the national program leader for that program, if you would follow up with Dr. Irma Lawrence. She is the national program leader for that program. She can be reached at ilawrence@nifa.usda.gov. And she will be able to provide that information concerning your question directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we do have another question in queue. Linda, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Hyunsu Kang, and I'm teaching at the Child and Family Development Program. I'm very interested in preventing the childhood obesity. So my final goal is how to educate, how to provide parental education to serve the healthy, good, fresh food for child. So is there anything that I can apply the research fund or program initiate fund for preventing childhood obesity, such as the gardening program in our campus, something like that? Gardening program for the early childhood center, early children. What kind of research fund is available for that?
Jane, would you like to take that question?
Could you repeat it, please? It kind of broke up.
She is in the Early Childhood and Family Development Program and is working with early preschool children with a community garden. And she wanted to know which, would that be under the nutrition program director, or which program should she go to focus her RFA, and which program would assist her in that endeavor?
What you might try is looking at the RFA if you Google NIFA Community Food Program. The NIFA Community Food Program is for nonprofit organizations in low-income areas. The 2016 RFA is up on the website, and the 2017 won't be out till this fall. Thank you.
And once again, you can dial #2. And right at the moment, I am not seeing any further questions. Oh, we just had a hand go up. Molly, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Molly Van Wagner. I noticed on one of the slides for the non-land grant capacity building program, it indicated the competition would open up January 25th, 2016. It's not currently open. Does that mean that it will be opening up very shortly?
This is Saleha, the National Program Leader for the Non-Land Grant Colleges of Agriculture program. Yes, at least I'm comfortable to say yes because it has been approved for funding, and so it's just a matter of finalizing the review process all the way up to the Secretary of Agriculture. But it's going to come out real soon, so I can't say enough about encouraging potential applicants to please go online and check when it'll be published. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And right at the moment, I am not seeing any further questions.
We're going to wait and see if any other questions come in the next few moments.
Sure thing, and just a reminder, #2 on your phone will put you into the queue.
Okay, thank you very much for staying with us, everyone. We're going to move right into our next presentation, and I'm going to invite Mark Mirando to present.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning to those of you on the West Coast. So I'm going to give a brief presentation with some grantsmanship tips for success. And I'll just preface this by saying that I've kind of scavenged a few slides from different presentations that I've given or colleagues here at NIFA have given, or grantsmanship workshops that I've attended over the past several years. So my perspective in giving this presentation comes not only from having served as program leader for at least 2 programs for the past 15 years and having run about 35 panels, but it also comes from having been an applicant in my past life and a sometimes successful applicant, not always successful, but having been a grant awardee and having been a reviewer for about a dozen different federal and foreign funding agencies, and having served on about a half a dozen different panels myself as a reviewer. So I've titled this presentation, 10 Things You Must Do to Improve, that you must do in order to improve your chance of success in competing for grants. So the first thing you must do is find the right program for you and your idea. Looking at the RFA, you want to find the main purpose of the program, or the funding priorities, as we call them here at NIFA, and determine does your idea fit in the mainstream or does it fit on the fringe. Second thing to note is that you don't want to waste time applying to the wrong program, because square pegs don't fit in round holes. If your proposal doesn't fit, don't waste your time trying to make it fit, because it's just not going to be successful. Each program is generally defined pretty well and those priorities are listed in the request for applications or the RFA. And then you want to determine if you're eligible and if there's any eligibility restrictions. So various programs, various funding agencies, including us, including NIFA, will have specific eligibility for the varying programs. So the second thing you must do is become a student of the RFA. If there's one thing you take away from my talk is that you need to read the RFA. Okay, so as I stated on the previous slide, understand the main goals or priorities of the program, and then understand the instructions outlined in the RFA on how to assemble and submit the proposal, including when and where to submit the proposal. Again, the take-home message here is read the RFA from front to back and go through it with a highlighter. Highlight the important passages as you read it and put tabs on the RFA so you can find those as you actually prepare your proposal. The third thing you must do is develop a timeline for proposal preparation. So it takes about 2 months of actual time, that is 2 months of 40-hour weeks, to prepare a proposal to be reasonably competitive. That's kind of the standard that we've developed based on various calculations. So you can't really prepare a competitive program if you start 2 months before the deadline. So develop a timeline that allows you to complete the proposal 4 weeks before the submission date. So that gives you a lot of wiggle room in preparation and allows you time to review, get your proposal reviewed by colleagues, which I will talk about subsequently. If you rush the preparation of the proposal, it will show, and the reviewers will notice, and they will not be kind during the review of your proposal. The fourth thing you must do is understand the criteria for evaluating proposals. RFAs, or program announcements, normally contain the criteria that will be used by reviewers to evaluate your proposal. And so they're included in the RFA so you can understand those review criteria. If you understand these review criteria before you begin preparing your proposal, this provides a better understanding of where to put your greatest efforts during the proposal preparation. So if the main criteria is scientific merit, then that is where you're going to put most of your effort into having a strong scientific merit in your project narrative of the proposal, for example. The fifth thing you must do is understand the review process and the reviewers. So it's important to understand that the reviewers have a very heavy workload, and they may be assigned 10 to 20 proposals to review. So they don't have a lot of time to be rereading passages in a proposal over and over and over again because it's not clear. They need to be able to read it through once and understand it as they read through it. So understand that they've got a heavy workload and they're reviewing a lot of proposals on a panel. Following the directions in the RFA helps the reviewers because all the proposals are consistent in the format. And not following the directions makes them work hard. If they have to look in various places for critical components of your proposal and it's different than all the other proposals, you're making the reviewers work hard. So the take-home message here is to prepare the proposal logically, preparing a proposal logically and clearly helps the reviewers. It makes it easier for them to understand, and it doesn't make them work hard on reviewing your proposal. The sixth thing you must do is to write the proposal logically and clearly. So organize the proposal according to the outline in the RFA or the evaluation criteria, whichever is most logical. In our RFAs, we generally have a listing of items in sequence that you must include in the proposal. And so for most of our RFAs, I would say organize your proposal according to the outline in the RFA. And so, again, understanding that following the prescribed format makes the reviewers not work hard, makes them more happy, and it'll make them more generous when evaluating your proposal. Again, making the reviewers work hard to review your proposal hurts you during the review process. The seventh item you must do is prepare the budget with a strong justification. So budgets normally, there's normally an itemized budget for some type of budget in a tabular form, along with a budget narrative or budget justification. So you want to make the budget, the items clear and the justification strong as to why those different items need to be funded. And this includes salary, it includes fringe benefits, travel, material and supplies, all those items, and all of those items should be justified. So generally, we don't consider the budget as part of the overall merit evaluation of a proposal. But having said that, budget that is not well justified and is not really believable does create skeptics within the ranks of the reviewers, and they will put this towards the credibility of the applicant. So keep the budget reasonable. Keep it, request what you need to do, everything you need to get the project done, but don't inflate the budget and don't under budget either. So, and then the second item on this is to keep the budgets within the guidelines in the RFA. Most of our RFAs list upper limits to different types of applications, and if they exceed that limit, they generally will not even be considered for review. So I will say that the reviewers do consider budgets for their degree of reasonableness, and they do provide that information to the program leaders when they're evaluating proposals. The eighth thing you must do is obtain critical input from experienced and successful colleagues. So this is part of the reason you want to have a timeline that allows you to get a complete proposal at least 4 weeks prior to the submission date. So this leaves you at least a couple of weeks to send it to somebody who can review it for you. So when you select somebody, you want someone who talks frankly, bluntly, and clearly. You don't want somebody that's going to beat around the bush and waste your time in evaluating the proposal. You want somebody that has a little sympathy for your ego. And you want somebody that has been successful in obtaining grants. Basically, you want somebody to identify the weaknesses and flaws in your proposal so that you can fix it and remove those weaknesses or flaws in the proposal or address the pitfalls as you do a final revision of your proposal so that it'll improve the success. If a proposal comes back from a reviewer that you selected before you submit and they have no critical comments, they say it looks great, and they have no suggestions for change, you probably didn't get a real good review on that. There should be a lot of red ink or a lot of comments and changes to those to that proposal if you received a good review. The ninth thing you must do is to fill out the forms completely and correctly, and then you want to send it to your sponsored projects office with sufficient time to allow them to apply their intramural administrative requirements, and so that they can then submit on time, submit the proposal for you on time. And this very often, it varies by institution, but a lot of times those the sponsored projects office will be responsible for filling out certain forms. And if they're rushed, they could get some of those items wrong, and it may not even make it into grants.gov. So the take-home message from this is that a deadline is a deadline is a deadline. You're generally not going to be granted an extension except under very extenuating circumstances, such as the blizzard we had this past week in Northeast that closed most institutions, universities, federal government for 2 days. So that would be the kind of extenuating circumstances. My computer blew up or my dog ate it are not extenuating circumstances, and we generally will not grant an extension to a deadline. So I have a few other comments that I'll briefly make. For those of you that are resubmitting a proposal, it's important to carefully evaluate the reviewer comments, and I would always suggest that after you get those reviewer comments and read them, put them in your desk drawer for about 2 weeks. Don't get right on the phone to call a program leader, but let them sink in for a little while and before you go back and reread them and contact the program officer. So carefully evaluate those reviewer comments. Consider that a review panel of 10 to 20 highly regarded experts is very knowledgeable. If you think that these reviewers, if your first reaction is the reviewers don't know what they're talking about, that is a panel of 10 to 20 experts in your field don't know what they're talking about, you're probably not going to be very successful in revising and resubmitting that proposal. So revise the proposal to emphasize the strengths and eliminate the weaknesses identified in the review. So along this line, I'll just tell you something. A wise old, very successful colleague told me when I was a new investigator resubmitting a proposal. And I asked him to look at my proposal, and he said it was very nice. He said, Mark, you probably ought to do what the review panel is telling you to do. And it turned out he was 100% right, and I've learned from that experience and was successful the next time around. So refusal to accept criticism and respond accordingly reduces the likelihood for success. A review panel is rarely going to take a resubmitted proposal where every previous comment is rebutted and the applicant refuses to change the proposal accordingly, and they're unlikely to consider that the previous panel was wrong and the applicant was right on every single point. So accept the criticism, revise the proposal to emphasize the strengths that they identified, eliminate the weaknesses, address all the pitfalls, any of those things that were in the review, and then explain how you revise the review. And sometimes it's a matter of the reviewers just simply didn't understand what you were saying, so it's a matter of I have clarified this point that was not clear in the original proposal for the reviewers. So, and I bring this comment up about resubmitting proposals, not just because it's important, but I seem to be encountering a lot, particularly new investigators, that just think their first proposal was perfect and didn't need any changes. And it seems to be an increasing issue over the years. I don't know why that is, but I seem to be experiencing it more and more, and I know some of my colleagues here at NIFA have commented on seeing that occur more frequently. So I mentioned among 10 things that you can do is to learn about the reviewers and the review process. So I'm going to come back to this point and tell you that the best way to learn about the review process is by experience, and that is by serving on panels. So if you can volunteer to serve on panels and get on panels, this is the best experience you're going to have in terms of learning what not only how to write a good proposal, but what to exclude, the mistakes not to make, because you're going to see lots of proposals where there's lots of mistakes, and you're going to see lots of proposals where they've done things very well. So my suggestion is to review various RFAs that may be applicable to your area of expertise, and then identify those programs for which you have specific expertise. Once you have identified those programs, contact the program leader, the NPL, directly to volunteer your services. And when you do this, just send them an email with a very brief description, 2 or 3 sentences, of how your expertise may fit into the program or be valuable in the review process, and attach a curriculum vitae along to that email. And then recognizing that you may not get invited the first time because there's a lot of people volunteering, and putting together a review panel is actually quite complex. I would repeat this process annually as needed. Keeping in mind that if you submit a proposal to a program, you generally will not be allowed to serve on the panel evaluating that proposal. Even though you wouldn't be evaluating your own proposal, you're just in that, you would be on that panel, so that we would not allow you to be on that panel. So just keep repeating, contacting the program leaders when you see those RFAs come out, and just keep reminding them that you're available to serve on panel, and this will be the best experience you can get at putting together a high-quality, competitive proposal. So just a piece of advice, final piece of advice for small to mid-size institutions with limited capacity, because I was asked to address this point. So my recommendation is to always propose projects that are within your expertise, ability, and capacity to conduct and complete. And then identify and secure collaborations where you may be lacking a little bit of expertise. And along these lines, you want to make sure you have that letter of collaboration included in the proposal from that individual. And then for the AFRI program, the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, which is NIFA's largest competitive grant program, actually USDA's largest competitive grant program, recognize that the AFRI program has strengthening grants available for which you may be eligible to apply. And there's limited eligibility, and these are for eligibility for AFRI strengthening grants is limited to institutions in EPSCoR states, small to mid-sized institutions with limited success, and minority-serving institutions. So the types of grants we have available that are strengthening in AFRI are strengthening standard, seed, equipment, and sabbatical grants. And we also have, for CAP programs, we have strengthening CAP projects as well. So if you're eligible, you should, by all means, take advantage of this strengthening program when considering the type of application to submit. And what the final thought I have in preparing your proposal is to keep in mind that it's not a mystery novel. So get to the point quickly and do so clearly, concisely, and logical. So the point here is you shouldn't waste 6 or 7 or 8 pages of your project narrative on the background and introduction. Get to the point, get to the objectives you're going to address, your hypothesis, make those points quickly, make them clearly, concisely, and logically. And if you have questions as you're preparing your proposal, by all means, contact the program staff. Their email address and phone numbers are listed in the request for application, and they're listed there for a purpose, and that is for you to contact them if you have questions. But read the RFA first, because most of the questions are going to be answered in that RFA. And if you still can't find the RFA after doing an electronic search, then by all means contact the program staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint for submitting your proposal through grants.gov, and this will be presented by Joanna Moore.
Hi, my name is Joanna Moore, and I'm a policy specialist in the Office of Grants and Financial Management, Policy and Oversight Division, Policy Branch. Today I will discuss submitting proposals through grants.gov. Things to remember about submitting through grants.gov. It is very important that you read the NIFA grants.gov application guide. The application guide will provide important information on what needs to be submitted as part of your application package. For example, on page 34 of the application guide, it provides instructions on how to submit the felony and tax certification form. In addition, when you're submitting your application, please use the application package that is tied to your fund opportunity that you want to apply for. Those forms are specific for that particular program. For example, if you are applying to the AFRI Foundational Program, you need to use that application package that is tied to that particular program and not any other program, because the forms are specific, again, to that particular program. If you are a new user to grants.gov, it is very important that you register with grants.gov. Remember that registration can take approximately 2 weeks for you to complete that, and it's very critical that you get it done as soon as possible because it can tie up you submitting your application. If you are new and you want to know how to register through grants.gov, the AOR should register by going to the registration button there at the top of the screen with the red arrow where it says register, and that's how you can register your organization to submit in grants.gov. Accessing the grants.gov application package, you must download an installed version of the Adobe Reader that's compatible with grants.gov. You can access and complete and submit applications through this website, use this website to get additional information on how to get the Adobe Reader. It is very, very important that you submit your application early through grants.gov. Please do not wait until the last minute to submit your application. As I said before in the previous slide, that if you are new to grants.gov, you must register, and that takes approximately 2 weeks, and that could impact you submitting your application. So remember to submit early. Applications are due on the specific date by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, it is important for you to provide your email address in grants.gov, so that way you will be provided with notifications if the application package is modified. Sometimes we may have to extend the due date of an application package. Something comes up that's out of our control where we have to extend it. For example, the snowstorm that we just had is an example of that, and grants.gov will provide you with notification of us doing a modification to the package to extend the due date or any other modifications within the requester application. Here are some items that could delay the processing of your application or have it be at risk of not being reviewed here at NIFA. It's important for you to make sure that your program code name and program code are accurate when you enter it into the application package. The best way to make sure that it's accurate is to cut and paste from the RFA. Again, please submit your application by the due date. Make sure you submit all the required forms such as the conflict of interest and the current and pending support form. Also, please make sure that if your program that you're applying to requires matching, that you provide all the matching documentation for that particular program, and all the information on how to submit matching information is in the request for application. Also, there is a page limitation for the project narrative that needs to be followed. So if the page limitation is 18 pages, that's what you need to provide is 18 pages, regardless if it is single or double spaced. Also, it's important that any attachment that you provide that is in PDF, grants.gov does not check to make sure that if you're submitting an attachment that is in PDF, so it's on you to make sure that it is in PDF. Again, it is very important that you read the request for application and also the NIFA grants.gov application guide thoroughly, as both documents should address any questions that you have regarding submitting an application to us. However, if you still need to have questions addressed, you can contact this website, this email address, or you can call us Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., excluding federal holidays, and you'll be able to get more direction if you need it. That's it for submitting to grants.gov. Now we're going to be open for any questions that you may have.
And once again, we're going to have our moderator come back, and feel free to cue in your question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I have a question about the capacity building grants. I saw when the presentation was being made, they listed a date of January 25th, 2016 as a release date and April 22nd as a closing date. When I look on the actual NIFA grant, it says that's closed. Could you clarify what those dates mean?
Yes, this is Mallory Koenig. I'm going to repeat what Celia answered this question before. So those were projected dates. The 2016 RFA has not yet been published. It is likely that it was delayed since our federal offices shut down for the past 2 days, but please be on the lookout for that. And know that you can also sign up to receive electronic notifications of when these RFAs are released on grants.gov.
Okay. Sorry to repeat a question. I just had not heard that. Are you pretty much looking for something like an April or May due date for that, something along those lines?
The best guidance would come from the documents that Celia prepared that you should have access to. I can pull it up if you need me to. And otherwise, looking at the deadlines for last year is also a good indication.
Okay. Yeah, last year was deadlines were in July. So.
The best indication is what's in the RFA. That is always binding, and it supersedes any information that may be on any web page.
Okay. All right, and so just look for that RFA, I guess. Okay.
Look for that RFA, and then look for those due dates, because that will be the due date unless for some reason there's a change to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to invite Rochelle McCrea to present on what you would do after you get the coveted award call.
Hello, my name is Rochelle McCrea, and I am a team leader in the Award Management Division, and I will be presenting on post-award management. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Go to the second slide, please. Thank you. Okay, the topics that I will be discussing today are what to expect after the award call, post-award modifications, when is NIFA approval required, award statutory time limitation, and reporting requirements. Next slide, please. What to expect after the award call. After you receive your award, proposals are forwarded to the AMD Awards Management Division for a preliminary review. AMD Management assigns proposals to grant specialists for a review, and you may be contacted if further information is necessary. After the specialist completes the review process, the proposal is forwarded to AMD Management for approval. Next, please. Post-award modifications. All post-award modifications require a letter signed by the authorized representative and the project director. The intent of the action should be articulated in the letter, and please include the award number because that's how we track the action. And all post-award actions should be submitted to our awards mailbox by TDS at awards@niffa.usda.gov. There are some actions that require NIFA approval. Those are change in key people, fund releases, second or subsequent no-cost extension, pre-award costs more than 90 days preceding the start date of the award, changes in the scope or objectives of the project, and subcontracts over 50% of the award or to a federal agency. Next slide, please. Now, for change in key personnel. That is one action that requires our approval. When the key personnel change or time commitment change by 25% or more, we need a letter indicating the change with the authorized representative and the new PD signature. We also need a new PD resume and a new PD current and pending support form, including this project that we have awarded. Next slide, please. We also have to approve fund releases. The first provision on the NIFA award state sheet will provide information on withheld funds and what is needed to release them. We will need a signature of the project director and the authorized representative on the request letter. And if you have any questions, please contact the administrative point of contact listed on the award state sheet for clarification. And please be sure to request the release of funds withheld by August 31st of the 5th year of the award and draw down funds by August 31st of the 5th year of the award. Next slide. We also have to approve the second or subsequent no-cost extension, and we will scrutinize the request. Agency research terms and conditions state normally no single extension may exceed 12 months, and only in exceptional cases will more than one extension be considered. The grantee must provide a summary of progress to date, justification of exceptional reason for the additional time, the project timetable to complete the work, and the remaining fund balance and signature of the authorized representative and PD. Now, exceptional reason could be there was some type of damage to your lab and you could not continue your research in a appropriate time period, so you may have to come in to us to request a no-cost extension for additional time. So that would be like an example. Now, another action that requires our approval is pre-award costs beyond 90 days. You should submit an itemized list of anticipated costs and the start date. And the reason why you may have pre-award costs is if the project started September the 1st and you had to start on the project in March, then that would be 90 days before the start date, so you would need to come into us for an approval, and we would need to know like salary for how much and so forth. Also, change in scope and objectives require our approval. You must submit new goals for the National Program Leader approval and subcontract over 50% to the or more or to a federal agency. And an example of that is if you had an award for $100,000 and you have subcontracts over 50%, which would be $50,000, then you would need to come into us for approval. We would need a letter of collaboration, statement of work, and budget narrative from the subcontract. Next slide. Award statutory term limitation. Program authorizing language limits grant period. Most projects are limited to 5 years from the start date of the award. The award cannot be extended beyond statutory time limitation. And drawdowns when the award is expiring in the 5th year must be drawn down by August 31st. And an example is if you received an award in 2010, then you must draw down your funds by August 31st, 2015. That is the 5th year and the last time period that you can draw down funds. Annual financial reporting. An SF 425 is due within 90 days after the anniversary date of the award. And if your project includes matching, that must be included on that document. And no reminders will be sent. Post-award requests will not be approved without an annual 425 report. Next slide. Annual technical reports. They're due within 90 days after the anniversary date of the award, and a reminder will be sent by report. Final financial report. The SF 425 is due within 90 days after the grant expiration. Notification for submission should be sent electronically 45 days prior to expiration, and again 90 days after expiration. So you will get a notification from us 90 days after expiration and 45 days prior to expiration. And you should submit that report to our awards mailbox at awards@nifa.usda.gov. The final technical report is also due within 90 days after expiration of the grant. You should submit it electronically to the reporting system, and a reminder will be sent by report, and failure to comply will impact future funding. The award terms and conditions. NIFA agency-specific terms and conditions contain agency-specific information on meals, equipment, and all reporting requirements. Sometimes after you receive an award, you may have a question about the budget, or you may have a question about a post-award action. A lot of times you can look right in the terms and conditions and find the information that you're looking for. So we have included the website that you will find the agency-specific terms and conditions. Next slide. Grant-related questions. You should contact the administrative point of contact for your award, and this individual is listed on the award document, or you can always contact the Awards Management Division, and we have provided our telephone numbers. Next slide. Thank you, and now I can entertain any questions you may have.
And we do have a question in queue now. Sue, go ahead.
Hi, this is Sue Tonic from Cal Poly State University in California. And my question is there a prospect for having the SF425 included as a module in report soon? So it's very similar to what we do for the 424s?
Caitlin will be presenting later, so she should probably address that question.
Thank you.
Let me backtrack on that. You said the SF425, the financial.
I thought my question was answered. It's going to be coming up in a later presentation.
No, I was thinking you were talking about the technical report, but you said SF425. So could you repeat the question again?
I was just hoping that we could get the 425s as part of the report process, so it will parallel what we do with the 424s.
Okay, I will take that suggestion back to our management team.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. In that case, would you like to continue, Michelle?
Oh, no, I'm finished. Thank you.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Then I would like to invite our final speaker, Caitlin Sellers, to discuss reporting your impacts. Please bear with us one moment as our speaker is logging on. This is Mallory King. Feel free to stretch your legs and get a drink of water as Caitlin logs on with us.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope I'm heard over the computer.
Hi, Caitlin. This is Mallory. We can hear you.
Okay,
we actually got an interesting question after the end of the last session that we would like to pose to you.
Sure.
The question was, are there any plans for the SF425, the Federal Financial Report, to be integrated into our report system where the technical reports are entered?
The answer is definitely no, and I'll give you a little reason and background why. Right now, I think some of you on the conference, and I'm not sure if this has been talked about earlier today, but NIFA is going through a grants modernization effort, and we are replacing our internal grant processing system with a new USDA-wide system. And as you know, the SF425 is a federal government-wide financial report that's required. And so this is a report that's going to be integrated into that system. The ultimate vision that NIFA has, and it's going to take years to get there, but the ultimate vision we have is for this new grant system, and it doesn't have a name yet, but this new grant-making, reporting type system, if you will be the one-stop shop. So it will have an external portal that basically allows any grantee with NIFA to log in and see the status of any grant that they have with NIFA, be it competitive or capacity, and they would be able to see the status of funds that are available, funds that have been drawn down, reports that are coming up due, reports that are overdue, and for any report that they may have due, have an easy, quick button to click, and then be able to electronically submit that form. Now, on the background, this new system may be connected to other systems like Report. So if this new system says you have a final technical report due and you click that link may just redirect you to what you know now as the Report system, whereas if it says you have an SF-425 due and you click that button, it'll bring you to another screen. And so it may not look and feel exactly like the screen you have for Report, but ultimately you're still going to this one main system, this one portal, to get a snapshot of any reports you have due and to be able to submit them all starting from that same place. And so that's the reason, is because the SF-425 is going to be electronically part of this new grant system, and this is a USDA-wide decision, it would make no sense for us to integrate it into Report at this time.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions, or should I get started?
You can go ahead and get started.
Okay. So I hope everyone signed on has had a educational experience so far in learning about kind of the upfront pre-award and middle award grant-making process, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about reporting your impact. So the post-award process and expectations and requirements for now that you've received a grant from NIFA and you've been 1, 2, 3 years in on performing that work, what are your impacts? How you report those to us. And so there's a couple basic items I'd like to cover first, just for those of you who might not be aware or might just want a reminder. It's really important to remember when using the report system that not just anyone can enter data or submit project data on behalf of the PD. Even if a person is very closely working with the PD, let's say a co-PD or a research assistant, postdoc, et cetera, those types of people, unless they are labeled as either the PD or the authorized representative at the institution, they will not have access to enter data on forms and report. And if you'll see a note here, this doesn't apply to anyone here, but at land grants there are site administrators, and so this is for non-land grants, I understand. But basically this means that the PD and authorized representative are the only two people with the roles in report that have the ability to enter data and submit into report. And so I just wanted to remind you all of that if there's ever a situation where someone's trying to enter and say, I can't see the project, why can't I see the project, and that would be why. So next slide. Now also a couple just reminders on report terminology that I'm going to use throughout the rest of this presentation. Anybody who has a grant with NIFA currently here already knows what a project initiation is, or should know, because the project initiation is the form that we require in the report system in order to actually award you the money that we've said that you're going to get and to make a project active. And so I'm sure everybody signed on, or the colleagues that you work with that you're signed on behalf of know what a project initiation is and have already submitted one. Meanwhile, the progress report and the final report are the two types of reports that we collect in order to collect accomplishment data. Throughout this webinar, you're going to hear, I'll use the words accomplishments and impacts kind of interchangeably. The reason is just because it's pretty open-ended in the report system for what we're asking for in the box that it gets put in. So I'll get into that a little bit later, but I just want to kind of upfront tell you accomplishments or outcomes or impacts, those are kind of all interchangeable a little bit. So how are impacts collected? They're collected, as I just said, on the progress reports and the final report. And something that we get asked all the time, well, what is the due date? And the due date for any competitive grant is not the same as another grant, and that's because it's due within a time frame of when the start date is of that grant. So basically, progress reports are due annually within 90 days after the anniversary of the start date of any project, and final reports have that same timeline, except it's based on the end date, not the start date. So it must be submitted within 90 days after the project end date. This really matters. It's not the anniversary of the start date for final reports because let's say, for example, you received a 6-month no-cost extension. Well, that means the 90 days that the final report would be due within would be based on that extra 6 months ending, not the anniversary of the start date, because that would mean, that would give you an extra year when you really only took an extra 6 months. And so that's why that matters. And we do have a decent amount of no-cost extensions that are given. So why is it so important to submit high-quality impacts to NIFA? First of all, we really, really do read them. We get asked this a lot, and then oftentimes, unfortunately, and we know that you all and your colleagues have a lot of reporting to do, but it's not just another report, and it doesn't just go into a folder and not get read. We really do read them, and we use them at the federal level to demonstrate the public value of the federal funds. We use it in our annual budget justification process. We regularly, weekly, if not daily, sometimes have to report up to the USDA Secretary's office, also up to Congress and to the White House. And sometimes these reports, or what we're asked to provide for data, have a very, very short turnaround time. I'd like to say we have weeks for some of them, but sometimes it's even just a day, sometimes just hours. And we're always going to try, we're never going to not give an answer, but sometimes if we can't quickly and efficiently get to well-written impact statements, then we have to kind of ignore what might be a very, very great project with great progress, but we just aren't able to tease out what the real accomplishments are because of the way that report was written by the PD or whomever. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So in the progress and final reports, if you're familiar with the system, you should recognize this little blue question mark that is on this slide. That is the help text button. Please, please pay attention to the help text. It's there for a reason. We try to do a really good job of making sure that that help text is as clear and as explanatory as possible to help you understand what goes in a certain section. The button, and I know there's many systems that we all use where you click that button and it just says, this is where you enter your accomplishment statement. It goes much further than that. Those help text boxes give you a lot of explanation and guidance on and what we're looking for in certain sections. So on those reports, the section titles are participants, target audience, products, other products, accomplishments, and changes/problems. And then within each of those sections, there are sub-boxes and sections that you have to fill out. And next to each of those subsections is one of those help text items. Now on the accomplishments section, it's just called accomplishments, and when you open up that page, what you see are 4 open text boxes. So there are 4 questions on that box. And normally I would never put a PowerPoint slide together that looks like this one. It's everything not to do for a PowerPoint slide as far as number of words and heavy text and all of that. I do this though to make a point. If you look at that second bullet listed there, the critical part of that page is the first question that asks, what did you accomplish under these goals? If you recall just a minute ago, I was saying sometimes we have very short turnaround times and even longer ones, but no matter what, when we're trying to answer the question for stakeholders and lawmakers and other decision makers in the federal government, at the state level, at the regional level, we go to this section to say, what did this project accomplish? What have they done in a year or in 3 years or in 5 years? What type of impact are they making on a certain body of knowledge or what type of information are they building and providing to other scientists? What type of community impact are they having? This is the box we're going to go to. You have 8,000 characters, including spaces in that box, and that's a decent amount of space. In those 8,000 characters, we are not asking you to list all of the heavy data from any tests you have performed or lab work or anything like that. What we're asking for is a qualitative description in lay terms that helps the general public, someone who probably does not have a scientific background or even understands what extension is, the way some of you might understand it to be. We're looking for a layperson's description of why does this research matter, why does this project or this program matter, who has it helped, what's the audience it's helping, why should it continue to receive public funding, why should other projects similar to this receive public funding. So that's what we're trying to get at. And if you click the help text box next to that question, what you're going to get is, and this is only a portion of it, but the very first paragraph is the paragraph that I've pasted here. We're basically saying that you need to describe in 1 to 2 paragraphs the impact of your project. You need to describe that up front. When I say 1 to 2 paragraphs, you can think probably in the range of 1,000 characters or so, which means that after that upfront kind of headline type statement of who it's helping and what you're doing, then after that you can get more specific and more in the weeds and use the other 7,000 characters that you still have left to describe some of the more specific results of what your work has accomplished thus far. But the part that I want to read is it's toward the bottom. Says, please do feel free to use numbers that will be meaningful to non-scientific audiences such as community leaders, politicians, taxpayers, and farmers. You will need to translate results of your work into lay terms, things that everyday people can relate to. One of the ways that I usually like to describe this is if you think about if you were to take the 1 to 2 paragraphs that you write in this section and it was to be on the front page of your local newspaper, let's say, would that be something that would grab someone's attention? Would it help someone understand the impact and the importance of your work? Would they be able to understand it in non-scientific terms? If it's not something that you could imagine being in some type of general public forum like a newspaper or a magazine or a public blog or something like that, then you would want to question what you're putting in that section. Next slide. So to help you think about and kind of break down what I was just describing, we like to say think about it in 3 sections or 3 questions. In your impact paragraph or paragraphs, these 3 are the 3 questions that should be answered. Number 1, what is the issue targeted? Or basically, what is your project about? Again, in non-scientific terms. In number 2, what did you do about it? And this gets at just the reporting period. So a progress report is only supposed to cover a 12-month reporting period. A final report is supposed to cover the life of the project. And this is clear in the help text in the report system. So for number 2, to say what did you do about it, you should be answering what did you do about it just in that particular reporting period if you're filling out a progress report. If you're filling out a final report, you should be answering what did you do about it in terms of the life of the project, whether that project was 3 years or 5 years or whatever length of time. You should be giving us the total what did you do about it answer. And number 3 is what have been the results of your actions. So basically, what have been the benefits? Who has benefited? Think back to what you entered in the report as part of your target audience. And how will your work further other research that may be done or other extension work? How will the information be disseminated to communities of interest, that type of thing. So if you basically are in a way answering these 3 questions, then you've gotten to, what we want to explain to the public as far as public value. And so the next 2 slides, I have a couple examples of impact, and I want to help you understand what it is and how it is that NIFA uses this information. No matter what, we understand that when we put reports together, we, of course, have to kind of do a little wordsmithing to try to make lots of different reports that come in and lots of different areas of research kind of sound the same depending on the type of report we're putting together or the audience we're giving it to. But in general, we end up with something like what you see here. And so I want to read through it and point out to you how this type of very, very simple paragraph answers the three questions that you just saw on that last slide. So this one starts out, a new system is being developed by the researchers at the University of Missouri that saves up to 50% of energy expenses by recycling heat previously wasted. So right there, that basically just says what the work is getting at. It doesn't launch into a whole long history, but you can see just in very general terms that, you know, it's an issue that heat can be wasted, and also that there's a way that you can capture or use or recycle that energy. And so they came up with the air heat recovery system, which works by capturing the air ventilated from poultry barns. The system can save the typical Missouri poultry operation about half of the 7,000 gallons of propane used each year, more than $10,000 in savings at today's prices. So right there in just one sentence, you can see in lay terms how it basically says what that institution, that PD and other co-PDs who were working together, what that institution did about this issue of wanting to, save energy expenses by recycling heat wasted heat. And it basically says, here's the system they came up with, and here's what it's saving people, a typical Missouri poultry operation. It's saving 7,000 gallons of propane use, and it's giving a quantitative number that really puts a dollar amount and understanding in lay terms of the savings at today's prices. And then it goes on to say that the cost reduction would be even greater in colder regions. The recovery system also improves air quality going into the barn, reducing dust, ammonia, carbon dioxide levels. This is evidence that improved air quality helps burns gain weight faster, have greater feed conversion, and less mortality. And so at the end, those are more qualitative statements, not necessarily backed up by any statistics or quantitative numbers, but it's something, again, that's put in lay terms that various audiences can understand. And that's really it. We're not looking for a huge long list or a book on answering those three questions, but it's basically what is the issue you're getting at. Here it happens to be about energy cost savings. What did you do about it? In this one, they developed an air heat recovery system, and basically what's the benefit? And this is showing that it can save one poultry operation more than $10,000 in savings. So that's how basic it is. Here's another example on the next slide. So this one gets more at the idea of education and building capacity, and this is going to be an example of something that it doesn't even give any quantitative numbers or statistics or anything like that, but just the same, it's still a very good example of the value of this public funding. So, and this is from a smaller institution. Northwest Indian College in Washington used its Tribal College Research Grant to study manila clams, so the tribe can gain insights on why populations of this culturally important aquatic species appear to be declining. So right there up front, you see what the issue is this important aquatic species appears to be declining. So what are they going to do about it? With their research partner, Oregon State University, the college is seeking to determine how elevated levels of hydrogen sulfide levels in sediment affect the growth rate of manila clams. And so, again, really just upfront and basic, it's showing, so what are they looking to do about it? And here thus far is what they've done. The college has a working gas chromatograph that will be used to analyze chemical components in the diet of manila clams. The college had not used the instrument before now, so the project will greatly build capacity by increasing the number of students and faculty on campus who can conduct analysis with it. It will also increase the chances that students in the project can obtain additional internships or jobs in a research field. So this is a really, again, another example of just a qualitative description of how this project, and although it's a smaller project at a smaller institution, there's not any crazy numbers in terms of dollar savings or dollars realized or earned, but it's really important to show some of what NIFA's funds are supposed to do, which is to help build capacity, help support students and faculty in becoming more advanced in their research and analysis capabilities. And again, supporting students in projects to obtain additional internships or jobs in research fields, which is something that an area that NIFA supports as well. So we have another example on the next slide. So here's another one where I'll just start right in. Researchers at Alabama A&M University have established that off-bottom oyster farm is economically viable. So that's what they're working on right there up front. In collaboration with Auburn University and other partners, 8 commercial oyster farms have been established in Alabama with more than 12 acres of production. Since aquaculture project began, over 1 million oysters have gone to market with a wholesale value of at least $500,000. So that quantitative number right there is very important. Whenever something, as we've already said, can be put into numbers or money savings, earning dollar increases or decreases that in lay terms that general people can understand, that's really important because it shows the return on investment of what these public funds are doing. And this is expected to more than double in the coming year. The oyster farms have created at least 6 long-term part-time jobs. So again, really simple, pretty much to the point. You can see that each of the 3 examples that I've shared range from, I think, anywhere from 5 to 8 sentences. Nothing crazy or extensive, but that type of impact statement up front is really, really important to include in that accomplishment section that we talked about. And so some of you may be wondering, this is a question that I get a lot, but you may be wondering, well, those sound like really impactful statements, and it's not easy to come up with that in maybe the first year of the project, and we definitely understand that. NIFA is that we do not expect that every single project, every single year is going to have something hugely impactful to say, and that's okay. You have an opportunity in your report in the accomplishment section, but also in the changes problems section, to describe basically maybe why certain outcomes have not yet been realized. But if at some point we would hope in a multi-year project that one of those reports, whether it's one of the progress reports or ultimately at the final report level, you're able to put a paragraph together similar to the examples that I just shared. And so I hope, we get asked a lot, what kind of examples can you share? What can you tell us about how you use these data? I hope what I just shared with you kind of helps answer that. I'm absolutely happy to talk to anybody further offline in terms of what further guidance I or someone in my office can provide as far as outcome and impact writing is concerned. One thing that I do want to take the opportunity to do is invite you and ask you to sign yourselves as part of the report listserv. I promise we don't constantly send out spam or anything like that through the listserv. It's a really great way to get newsletters and notifications on system downtime, new releases of the system, etc. And it's really easy to subscribe. You can just follow the instructions here, and that's how you're going to get the most up-to-date feedback. And then also, we use that listserv as an opportunity for us to collect feedback. So right now, just as an example, we're going through an update of the system where we are going to enhance what we call the operational reports section. So that basically means that anybody who has access to the system has this module called operational reports where you can go in and search some of the data that's in report. And we want to know from you, basically, well, what is the most helpful for you as our partners and as our grantees? And so we use that listserv to send out those types of emails with questions or opportunities to email back feedback. So that's it from me today. I think we have a little bit of time for question and answers. If not, I guess Mallory will correct me. But this also is the report webpage, just so that you're aware, and I know you have these slides, so if you ever have any questions or want to get any of the project director's guides or quick guides or training videos, they're on that website listed here.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. And at this time, I'll invite our moderator back, and we will take your questions.
At this time, we have no other questions on the line.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our presenters who donated their time and expertise today, and thank you all for joining us on this webinar. As we stated when we began, this is being recorded and it will be posted on our NIFA USDA.gov website. Thank you very much and have a good day.